Welcome to the show about all things making music, from the creative process and workflow to gear and recording techniques. I'm your host, Brian Funk, musician, producer, Ableton certified trainer, and author of the 5-Minute Music Producer. Let's learn to become better music makers. Welcome to the Music Production Podcast. Today I'm speaking with Boyan of LowHeatBeats. He's a music producer and educator whose rapidly growing YouTube channel takes us behind the scenes of his process, showing us the tools and techniques he uses to create his blend of soulful, hip-hop, funk, electronic music. Boyan and I discussed a wide range of creative philosophies and techniques, and he shares how he gets into the creative flow and uses his YouTube channel to share and develop his music-making process. We discussed some of our favorite tools, including the new Ableton Move and how the consumerism around music production can inhibit our growth and creativity as artists. I've been a fan of his YouTube channel for a long time. Please welcome LowHeatBeats to the Music Production Podcast. February 21st through 23rd, 2025, I'm taking over Ableton's Pasadena headquarters to host a very special in-person music-making workshop, and you're invited. It's the Finish February Workshop Retreat, and it's open to just 15 people. We're going to spend 3 days bringing your songs from ideas to completion. I'm going to help you finish your music using the techniques and strategies I've learned in my 3 decades of music making and the skills I've discovered speaking with music professionals on nearly 400 episodes of the Music Production Podcast. You'll participate in lessons, activities, and exercises I've developed over my nearly 20 years of teaching experience and 11 years as an Ableton certified trainer teaching music production for Berklee Online. You're going to get personalized one-on-one feedback and constructive advice from me and the other workshop attendees, and we'll meet and learn in small group and individual settings to ensure you get specific feedback and help with your music throughout the entire process. You're going to have the time and support to work on your music so you can leave with finished tracks. Plus, you'll be hanging out at the Ableton Pasadena, California headquarters and have access to Ableton's Push 3 and Move to make music with. And you can take advantage of Ableton's exclusive in-person 20% off hardware and software offers and up to 30% off Push 3 when you trade in your old Push. I'm also going to give you a physical copy of my book, The 5-Minute Music Producer, and a collection of my premium Ableton Live packs. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited, and we're going to get a lot of work done. Space is extremely limited to ensure high-quality, personalized attention. Learn more and sign up at brianfunk.com/workshop, and I'll see you in February. Boyan, welcome to the Music Production Podcast. Really nice to have you in real life.
Man, thank you so much for having me. It's pleasure is all mine as a listener of the podcast and being a guest on the podcast that has had so many legendary people, man. Like you had Roger Lynn in one of your... Some people that are listening now may not know that because maybe they found the podcast later. But you had Roger Lynn like a couple of years ago. That was incredible.
Yeah, so pioneer. I mean, we have probably those, 4x4 drum pads largely because of him.
Exactly. And to be on the same podcast as him is just incredible.
Yeah, this has been a real hack for my own education and getting to know people, networking, doing the podcast, which I didn't realize it would be, but it's such a great chance to talk. I mean, I've been following your work for a long time on YouTube. I love what you do. I love your tone and your enthusiasm, and the music you make is really cool also. So I don't think without the podcast, I don't have a good excuse to approach you. You know what I mean? And now here we are talking, and it's so fun. Like you're literally sitting, and that's what I think I said the first moment we opened up. You're sitting exactly where you are for your videos, and it's like, whoa, it's almost like being in a virtual reality thing where now we can interact.
True, man, true.
But
I joined I accepted the invitation. The main reason is to just hang out with you and talk to you. It's just something I'm really happy to do. So thank you for having me.
I'm really happy you came on. Like I said, you're doing awesome work. I've learned a lot from what you do and gotten inspired from what you do, and your channel's growing so nicely. So you're doing fantastic work. Thanks for sharing all that with everybody.
No, man. Thank you. Thank you.
What got you started in all this, actually getting to put yourself out there like on YouTube and social media, sharing your knowledge?
Oh well, let's just do like a quick like going back in time. So
Yeah.
I really don't have like any proper, background in music, like being trained classically on anything or anything like that. I remember I discovered music production when I was 16 years old. A friend of mine gave me a copy of FL Studio, totally legit, of course, like
Of course.
in high school. And so ever since then, I was hooked on, like, it was just incredible to be able to just use your own sounds and sequence them. It was just something that boggled my mind back then. I think I was so excited that I couldn't really sleep that night when I found out that. I just remember it so clearly. But I never really, had a environment of people to work with. I do know a couple of people now, but I never really had a good environment and people to work with, to collaborate with, to do even a business venture connected to music production or something like that. So, and also my music, I felt like it was good, but it was not getting the attention I felt it deserved, right? Because getting, and that's a bit later, obviously. I'm now talking about like maybe 6 or 7 years ago when I started the channel. It's hard to get your music heard, and it's been like that for a while. It's not something new. So for me, that was like a way to, first of all, do things on my own terms. Like, I don't depend on anyone. And also a way to try to expose people to my music through creating content. And firstly, like in the beginning, I thought I wanted to sell beats to vocalists, which is kind of crazy thinking about it now, because I don't really do content for these people. My content is for producers. So I quickly realized that's why it's LowHeatBeats, and it has remained this way ever since. I haven't changed it, but it was the initial idea to sell beats, which, again, when you create content for producers, you can't really sell beats to vocalists because they don't watch that content. So I quickly realized that was not the proper thing to do for me. And so, yeah, it took me quite a while to get semi good at this. Like, if you look at my older videos, they were like kind of cringy, but that is probably every creator's early videos. So yeah, I think this is the gist of it, like what got me started back in the day. I think it was 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's grown really well in that time. It's interesting how you had that one idea, selling beats to vocalists, but then kind of realized, hey, that's not really what I'm doing. That's not really where my interest is. But I think you don't really learn that unless you start trying, right? You have to take those steps and then realize, oh, okay, I thought I was going that way, but it looks like I'm actually heading in this direction.
No, you're right. I think just starting to do things without, like, you can plan and overthink as long as you want. And the cliche of, oh, I need this amazing camera to start. No, I think my first videos were filmed on an iPhone 6s or something like that. No one cares what you use. Like, you just need to start without overthinking. I didn't have really the camera, the presence on camera that's like proper for such videos. It was like really not good. But unless you start doing it, you can't learn how to do it. And one thing that I was always conscious and worried that people will be negative. They'll be like, oh, look at this guy, he just doesn't know what he's doing. Like he has an accent, because I'm Bulgarian. Like, I don't really, like, my accent used to be much worse when I started. I think it has gotten much better these days. But in the end, I realized no one actually cares, and the feedback was much more positive, even on my cringy videos, than there were like very few negative comments or people being like really, really negative. So and you will always get those negative comments. Like you shouldn't let them get to you. They're not really. You don't need to pay attention to them.
Mm. They do sting, and sometimes it takes about 10 positive comments to make you feel a little better about one negative comment.
True. Exactly.
I tell you though, I've found out of say 10 negative comments, 9 of them, if I either don't say anything or especially if I just reach out genuinely, I'm really sorry you feel that way. Thank you for letting me know. The feedback's really helpful. Whatever, just kindness. They almost always come back and say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd even read this. I was just messing around." They feel bad, or it's not really who they are. It's just a moment maybe they don't even realize they're contacting another person. So I've found maybe like that restores a little bit of my faith in humanity, because the YouTube comments can be a little brutal sometimes, but generally, people aren't so bad. Most of the feedback, like you said, is positive and encouraging. And even if it's critical, a lot of times there's still a thank you in there. And like you said, you can't worry about it too much.
No, probably they just had a bad day or something. But
Yeah.
also I appreciate like constructive criticism where it's like genuine feedback for something you didn't quite do right. That's totally fine. That's like even good. So like people are actually paying attention to what I do and they provide feedback. I really appreciate that. There is nothing wrong with that when they do that.
And the worst thing is just nothing.
Exactly.
No,
Absolutely.
like absolutely nothing. At least, people are taking it in a little bit.
True.
You've mentioned like it was a way to get people maybe to listen to your music too. And I think that's a smart approach. There's so much music coming out all the time. We need to find ways to make it worth listening or pique people's interest, because it's just not enough to say I made a song. I finished a song. Like, it is a huge deal to finish, and you should congratulate yourself and feel good, but it needs something else still. And creating some content around it is definitely a very smart thing, because you're also adding some value. You're teaching people. But I think that's a tricky thing that we all need to navigate. How do we figure out how to get people interested in our work? Because I don't really think the work itself is quite enough when you have endless options, infinite options of not only new stuff coming out, but everything else that's ever been recorded is available at our fingertips.
Man, I think like while we are talking, like hundreds of songs have been uploaded to Spotify, like just since the start of our conversation. So
Sure.
it's kind of hard for people to navigate this, but definitely was a way for me to expose people to what I do. Some people care. Some people were like, "Oh wow, that's really great. I love this. I'm glad I found you." Some people are just in it for the gear stuff or for the tutorials, which is fine. Again, no problem with that. I totally understand. But if you do it consistently, more and more people will take notice, I guess. And also, I use the opportunity for like maybe when there's like a big new thing to show, like for example, like Ableton Move, like this new device that Ableton released, or the new machine update, or whatever like new software or hardware comes out. I always take the opportunity to showcase my work alongside that, because these videos get more views, and that's just more exposure for the music that you do. But I also, since then, I've started releasing on a label. It's called Stereo Fox Records. These are my friends here from Bulgaria, but they operate on an international level, like they're an international team. So they have been a huge help for actually getting me into playlists and curators to notice what I do. I've had like a couple of tracks played on BBC radio shows. So that was kind of incredible. That would have never happened without them. So I'm really thankful to have that relationship with them, and their support has been amazing. Honestly, if I was to do it just by myself, that would have been far less effective, to be honest, because creating the music, like you're already doing too many things. Like you are a songwriter, composer, producer, engineer, mixing and mastering engineer, actually. And then if you have to do everything that's related to promoting the music, that's just overwhelming, man. I can't do it all. It's just too much. So if you have someone help you, it's just a privilege to have.
Yeah, you're doing video content too, and social media. It's wild how many things I found myself doing because I started doing music. Web design,
you never signed up for this, right?
No, I would never be doing any of this stuff, but it's because of the music, and you want to find ways to share it or to talk about it. It's amazing we have this opportunity, and it's not just music that's been democratized, but everything: video editing, publishing, releasing music. Everything has been made available to just about everybody that wants to at least, take the time to learn how to do a little bit of it. But that does mean then you have to do all of it. So there's, it's nice to get help. It's nice to have that, nobody can do it alone.
Absolutely, man. And I think there's so much great music out there. Like I see people who are like older. They are always like, oh, music used to be so great back in the day. Not really. You like, this is just your perception because you were younger back then, and only the stuff that's really stood the test of time. You only remember that. You don't remember all the like subpar stuff that was released. But obviously, the amount of music that's like you to get through the noise now, it's much harder. But there is so much great music out there. So I think like it's hard to compete with so many talented people all over the world. And it's not so centralized. Like back in the day, I feel like it was like, you had MTV, the Billboard charts, or whatever, and like everyone was listening to that. Nowadays, you have many small sub genres and communities that are focused around things that not necessarily many like other people may not know about that at all, but it may be a vibrant community around certain style or certain subculture. And so I feel like the internet has facilitated that in a big way. So I feel like everyone can find their niche to enjoy. But if you're only waiting for the big labels to spoon feed you music, it's gonna be like the stuff that's appealing to most people. It's never gonna be like the most creative stuff, although it sometimes is. Like I don't hate on that for sure, but that's how I feel about the landscape of modern music versus what it used to be back in the day.
Yeah, that's a good point. And if you grab any year from the past, we're getting that, like say it was like 1969, we'll just say. We have today only the stuff that rose to the top. I mean, even in 1969, it was only the stuff that rose to the top and got through that very narrow funnel. And now it's the stuff that stood the test of time. So a lot of those songs still didn't last into today. And if you look back on the past, we're really looking at the best of the best. And then,
True.
It's easy to say, music was so much better back then because you're looking at all the best stuff that lasted, that had meaning and continues to have meaning, compared to just whatever's happening today. And it's not really a fair comparison. And maybe it's because it's a little bit harder to find. You have to do a little more work now, whereas it used to be, hey, this is the top 10 countdown on MTV. Here we go, number one.
True.
And that was kind of nice to have that, somebody choosing that and vetting stuff. But you're right that if you want to get really specific in genres, electronic music is really probably the best example of that, because you can go down IDM or bass music, and then in each one of those is 24,000 different lanes you can check out. Very specific. So we have it good, and we have it, I guess, the price for that good. You know, a little bit more work, a little more effort goes into it.
Yeah, because we don't have the gate, like you used to have the gatekeepers back in the day. Like you couldn't get through MTV or Billboard or whatever just on your own. You has to be picked in a way. And nowadays you can do it all from your bedroom. So it's a totally different landscape.
I'm thankful for that. I
Me
think it's
too.
pretty cool that I can be in this same spot I'm sitting right now, come up with an idea, flesh it out, work on it, finish it, publish it, send it out to the world without moving, without
It's
doing
incredible.
anything.
I think we take it
Yeah,
for granted. I
sure.
think we take it for granted, and that's a good point. That it's actually kind of incredible if you think about it.
Yeah. When I think about my little trackpad on my laptop, it's just these little finger movements, just
Yeah.
this strange, like, kind of secret code of finger movements that makes a song and puts it out on the internet. It's wild.
True, man. I agree. Absolutely.
Mm. And you make the point too of, some of your older videos being the cringy ones. I mean, I feel the same way about mine too. I think when I started, I don't even think I had an external camera. I think it was just the laptop camera. And that was, I don't know, 15 years ago. And that didn't look too good.
No.
But at
I
the
guess it
time, it
didn't.
was enough. We're at that point where even the lowest quality stuff we have is still pretty darn good, especially compared to what we used to have.
Especially if the content you are providing is valuable to people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always like the best example for me is, and you may correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly, your episode with Roger Lynn, his audio quality wasn't really great. Like it was a bit hard to listen to. But it's Roger Lynn. Like you're gonna listen to him, even if you need to like, strain a bit to hear what he's saying, because what he has to say is so valuable. And so the same thing is like with the YouTube content or anything else. As long as the content is valuable, people will pay attention. The quality doesn't really matter too much, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think the lowest quality we have is already way up here compared to
True.
what we used to have. That was a thought that really helped me with my own songwriting, recording process. When I finally moved up past the cassette 4-track, where you really do need to pay attention to how you're miking things and noise, because every track is just loaded with tape hiss to begin with. So anything you add to that is trouble.
So then
But when I
tape
got
hiss,
to,
the tape hiss is added to the tape hiss from the, like, you record with the tape hiss and then you add more tape hiss, right? Is that how I've never used that. Is that how it works?
oh yeah, so if you think of, you have 4 tracks, every time you turn on a mic and there's hiss on that track, and then the next track has a little bit of hiss, and it just adds up. And if you start doing things like some of the tricks we used to do to get more tracks, we would take the 3 tracks and record them onto track 4. So you do like a mix onto track 4. So now it's mono, and all of that noise is added together onto track 4, and it's degraded. And then you would do maybe 2 more tracks and then mix those 3 tracks. After a while, and sometimes you'd even hear like these magical instruments pop up that you didn't even play, because it's all the harmonics mixing together, and you'd be like, what is that little sound? It's just the artifacts of the tape and all these, I guess, like all the frequencies from the saturation and distortion coming together, and you'd almost hear these like phantom melodies or phantom sounds in there. But it sounded like you were, at the ocean,
Oh man.
listening to all that noise. So when I first got digital recorders, I was like, it doesn't matter what I do here, it's going to sound way better than my 4-track. So I kind of let go of some of that stuff with the gear, with the mic placement and getting everything perfect, and focused on just making the song.
No,
Even
no,
the
absolutely.
really bad mistakes with technique and quality didn't matter because it was already so far ahead. And I mean, nowadays we're so deep into that where you can almost make a song without any consideration to any kind of technique with recording or
And yet
mixing.
people still obsess over sound quality. But
Oh yeah,
I absolutely agree with you. Like you are absolutely, I'm absolutely 100%.
of course that stuff matters, and you can keep leveling up your sound a bit. But it is funny, you know, coming from that and then being where we are now, where you could know nothing and your song will sound 100 times better than my 4-track songs that I painstakingly tried to get right.
Yeah, but what's even funnier is that we now try to add this on purpose, right? You have all the lo-fi
Yeah.
plugins and effects, so like it's gone full circle. Like it's just
Yeah. And
the
I love all
nostalgia
that
for that
stuff too.
sound. Yeah.
Yep. I love it too. And I do that. I add it. I have a tape machine that I use for that.
Oh, you do?
But yeah, and it's much more under my control now though,
But
where I can,
do you have a reel to reel? Is it a reel to reel?
yes. Yeah.
Okay, dope,
I got it
great.
right next to me. It's a Tascam 388. So it's an 8-track reel to reel and 1/4-inch reels. And it has a mixing board built into it.
Oh
So it's a
wow.
self-contained thing. And it's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. It's really fast. You record it. It's on tape. There you go. You got some EQ, but that's it really. Maybe you can run the return effects. They've got I think 2 you can send effects to. But it's just boom. There you go. But a lot of times what I'll do is record a lot into the DAW into live and then bounce those 2 tracks onto the tape and get the warmth of it. Or maybe even just do kind of like stems. Like I'll make 8 stems out of that, 8 groups. So maybe or channel 1 and 2 will be drums. They get put on the tape on 1 and 2 and then mix on the machine, which can be kind of fun.
A question: do you use something to denoise it then, or do you keep the noise that it adds?
No, I kind of want the noise at this point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, it does have like a DBX,
Oh,
kind
but
of
that
thing
removes a
like
bit of
that.
the high end, right?
Yeah, I never liked it. I just felt
Yeah,
like it took all the energy out of it.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe I'm not using it right, but anytime I've tried it, I was just like, nah, I want the noise.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, for sure.
So yeah, now I'm using the noise like as a creative effect. Whereas back in the old days, I was fighting with my life against that noise. It's too much. And so many things are like that, even just quantizing drums. Well, they're too perfect now. Now I need them to be a little sloppier. And I used to wish my drums could be perfectly tight.
Yeah, absolutely. But now you have the groove templates, so
Yeah.
you can do it all for sure.
Yep. The Groove Pool is an amazing tool where you can you can steal grooves basically. You can
True.
steal the feel. I think a lot of times when people are sampling old records, it's because they want the feeling, the groove, the movement.
Hmm.
And using that Groove Pool, you can get that. And that's nothing you need permission for.
Exactly. True.
It's just timing. So
True.
you can have that. That one
Absolutely.
gets slept on a bit, extracting grooves. Put some videos in the show notes for that.
No, true, true. I don't use it myself often enough, so you're absolutely correct that it's a bit slept on.
I'll do it even for my own performances. Like, even if I'm finger drumming a beat, I'll extract that groove and then apply it to the bass line that I program. And then it's playing along to me a little bit more.
All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you can't be like amazing at all instruments. Like obviously, like maybe if you have like a person that's specialized for every instrument, but that would be like kind of impossible.
Yeah. And it's not perfection. It's just making it a little more like the performance.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my finger drumming is whenever I zoom in, I'm off the grid. I'm not hitting right on there like a drum machine. But then I can have the bass line I programmed morph to that rather than the grid.
But you do play you play the guitar as far as I know, but you do play the drums a bit, right? Or
A
am
little
I?
bit, yeah.
Oh, cool. So
Yeah.
that's plenty. I mean, guitar and drums.
Mhm.
That's plenty. I don't really like. I don't really play any of these instruments. Unfortunately, always wanted to, but I felt like I would probably be too overwhelming to start. It's never too late, right? But
It's never too late. No. I think about when I started, I was a teenager and, you know,
that's the best time. That's the best time to start.
but even if I would have started when I was 25, that'd be still like 15, 20 years by now. So it's, yeah, not too late. It's,
Never too late.
it's only too late when it really is too late, you know,
Yeah.
but,
Sure.
cause you can really, within like a year, you can be, maybe not even a year. I mean, if you're thinking about for performing or not necessarily for performing, but for like producing and recording, you can use some of your studio wizardry too to clean up those performances. We got take lanes that you can use to clean stuff up. So, it doesn't have to be totally perfect. And I guess for the purposes of recording, you can not be as good as you would need to be for actual performances. I mean, that's how I am with keyboards. I don't play piano or anything, but I use the piano. I use the synth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
I have to fix it a lot.
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, we're in a great time for that stuff,
No, true. I haven't used the take lanes too much, to be honest. I just when I make music, I just play on the keyboard. Basically, that's what I like. I play the pads on various controllers, record some drum grooves, and they just play the keys. Don't really pay attention to any I forget we had that. So probably not a bad idea to explore it more. But then maybe I can use it. Maybe like the way you use a keyboard. Maybe I need to start using a guitar or bass guitar. Maybe starting with something simple. Starting with something simple may not be a bad idea.
Treat it like a sample.
Yeah.
You chop it up, and I mean we could do that with any audio now. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like to work? You cover so much gear in your videos. Do you have like a kind of, when it's time to make music, certain tools you like to focus on, or do you like to kind of try new stuff and see where it takes you?
So the gear thing, it's related to basically creating videos that people want to watch. But I'm also like curious to try it for myself. But I'm not going to be necessarily go out of my way to buy something and use it and try it just because it's the latest hyped thing on the internet. But I feel like to do well as a creator on YouTube, you need to make the content that people want to watch. It's as simple as that is. Otherwise, I would just use a pad controller. Like I mostly use the Ableton Push 2, and nowadays I use this thing here as well.
Move.
Yeah, because it's very compact. Actually, it works really like it just slots into my setup really easily. And then also I have the Control Mark III keyboard from Native Instruments. So that's like my main. So basically a keyboard, some pads, a computer, an audio interface. Honestly, that is all I need. And if I get something new and try it out, and it's cool, I may use it sometimes. But a lot of times gear is just a distraction. Like I'm just being completely honest, because it's all about what you have to say with your music. It's not necessarily the gear that will add. Like obviously, it can lead to some interesting results. I'm not denying that, but there are a lot of things that I've bought that they just don't get too much use because they just get in the way. So having a simple, small setup with everything you need, a good computer is like the main thing. I actually like computers. I'm not like because people have started to be bored of computers and they always want these small gadgets, which again, the Ableton Move is great for that. I love it. But at the end of the day, for me, the computer is just an amazing tool that, I don't hate it. I love it. I enjoy using it, and the possibilities it gives me, and at the price I get these possibilities is just amazing. But I get why people are bored with it because they're so ubiquitous nowadays. But yeah, these are the tools that I really value and that I use every day.
I thought you might say something like that there is kind of this core thing you have, and then you get these like guest stars once in a while. And
Yeah. No, exactly.
it's fun to experiment with new things, and sometimes it makes you work in new ways. True. But I agree with you. When you invest in a new piece of gear, it's more than just money. There's a lot of time and learning, and it's kind of a step backwards in your productivity a lot of times. And it's worth knowing that, because I've thought hundreds of times in my life by now, once I get this new thing that's coming in the mail from Sweetwater, then I'm going to make my hits. It's going to be easy, you know?
Exactly,
And so far, that hasn't happened yet.
Nope.
There have been things that have helped, that have improved my workflow to some degree, but there really hasn't been anything that was just like, oh my God, here it is. It's the secret.
No.
That's just not it. And what you said about it helps you maybe express yourself. It's kind of that's the most important thing, is the actual music, the expression, and the product that you come up with. It's not the tools that helped you get there. It'd almost be like the ideas are what we're communicating when we speak, right? It's not, the grammar isn't the point. That's just the way we organize our thoughts. But really, it's these ideas, and the words are just vehicles, just like our controllers are too.
True.
Finding a good new word might help you express something a little faster, but it doesn't create the expression for us.
Yeah, or maybe
That's
getting
still
something new will give you like a different perspective for a while to just switch it up a bit. But at the end of the day, I always go back to the core tools that I use, because I just know them, and you don't have to. You have to be at the level that you don't think about the tools at all. Like, it's all about the ideas and what you want to express in the tools. They just need to be transparent. And so that's why it's very hard to, like, so for example, there are so many, like, let's say Bitwig, like an amazing DAW, right? Better than Ableton Live. Yeah, but I just know Live so well, I don't really have any motivation to even try it, because it's not going to make my music better. It's the tools that you know are the best tools that you can use.
Yep, that's so true. And when I first got into computer production, I went through various DAWs, tried out whatever I can, all legally, of course, like just like you.
Yeah. True.
And when I did finally make it to live, I think a couple things happened. I think for one, I just liked it. It felt more like, for me as a songwriter, rather than an engineer, where I felt like Pro Tools and a lot of the other ones were more for engineers. It was also a matter of, I was just tired of looking. I was tired of all that time I was spending trying to learn how Pro Tools works, how I went to Digital Performer, Logic, Cubase, how these all worked. All my music time became trying to figure out software. And by the time I got to live, I liked it. There were a few things I was able to do easily, like MIDI map, and that was kind of a breakthrough for me.
True.
But then I was like, I'm done looking. I want to settle down. I don't want to date anymore.
Yeah, no.
I want to start a serious relationship.
Absolutely. So now you are Ableton certified trainer, are you? Am I correct about this?
That's right. Yeah.
So look where this led you.
Yeah.
That's kind of incredible,
Well,
amazing.
I don't get there if I don't stop looking, right? Um, and that journey is kind of funny because I didn't ever think I was going to get to that point. Especially when I started releasing content, releasing packs. I started releasing packs, I think, in 2011. And I just knew how to put samples in sampler and then
Mm.
play them on the keyboard. And I was just sharing those. And kind of what you were saying earlier, like you kind of wonder if people are going to hate on you for it. But most of the reaction was people thought I was some sort of expert at it.
Mm.
How do I do this? They're asking me all these other questions. And a lot of times I would try to figure that out because I wanted to be able to help them because I couldn't believe they were even watching my videos. And, so I would go and learn. And that process of creating this content and making these packs got me more down that road of trying to learn how to do more stuff and more production unexpectedly, which again, we said earlier, you sort of have to start down a path to figure out where you're going. And that was a really fun development I didn't see coming. And my day job, my like grown up work is high school English teacher. And suddenly now like my teaching experience is starting to come mix with my music. And for so long, I thought they were just two separate lives that I lived. And it made sense. It's like, yeah, okay, I could see this. Like, yeah, I'm a lot of times I would be teaching similar concepts to English students about writing that I was talking about with making music. And I was starting to see the parallels of how creating a story is similar to making a song. But again, I don't get there if I don't just go without worrying too much about it.
No, true. Teaching is hard. I used to teach music production locally. Like I've been off it for a little while. I haven't done it recently, and that experience taught me. Like I learned a lot from it. Like there is no like what I learned is that the best way to learn something yourself is to have to teach it the next day. It's like you just have to figure it out really well to be able to explain it to people who are not familiar with the concept. And also, yeah, that has helped me a lot. But it's draining. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like teaching is just very hard. It's hard work. It's hard work.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me. Like even the act of talking so much, and you have to be on point. You can't just waffle like talk. Like you have to be very specific about the things you say, the way you explain them, and it's just tired. It's just fatiguing. It's just not an easy thing to do. At least from my perspective, I feel like it's very demanding.
I agree. It's exhausting. My days at work are tiring mentally, sometimes emotionally too, because then you're dealing with just people and their lives and their challenges as well. But you are correct. Like learning how to explain it to somebody is a really good way to learn it yourself, because you especially start to see when they don't understand. Oh, they're not getting it. Okay, so maybe I'm not thinking about it right. Maybe I need to come at it in a different angle. And sometimes that's what really makes a lot of sense. It's interesting to see how that works. I mean, you do must be doing a lot of that though, when you're like, suppose like, you're reviewing like a new instrument or synth. I'm just looking at your YouTube right now and like, I see like the new Korg synth, machines updates, keyboard samplers. You got Move is new. So you're obviously learning that. So you're transferring that into teaching for your YouTube videos.
No, sure. I don't really review that much gear. A lot of these that you mentioned are just like news recaps. I just do these videos sometimes just to recap for people what has happened during a week with a lot of new releases. I don't really do so many gear reviews. I'm not one of those gear tube people, but I do it tool that I'm interested in, and Move was something that was quite interesting to me. And also, yeah, the teaching experience helps me to be able to convey the concept or certain things about a device or a way to do stuff. I used to do more tutorials actually up until recently, and I will keep on doing them. The thing is that people don't seem to want to watch them that much. So like people who watch them are really happy with, like they're thankful, they like them, they're very happy with them. They just don't get a lot of attention because, you know, YouTube is so competitive. And but at the end of the day, you're right. Teaching helps you learn how to explain complicated concepts and make them simple for people. And also, what I've been doing lately, I just write scripts. I used to just write outlines, but these days especially for my intros or for more complicated stuff, I just write it word for word. I even ordered a teleprompter, the Elgato prompter. It's gonna come next week.
I'm looking at you through it right now.
No, I don't have it yet.
No, I have it.
Oh,
I'm
you have
looking
it?
At you. I'm looking at you through it right now.
Oh, great.
I love it.
So that, man, I didn't. So that's how you're actually looking at, right? That's.
Well, I used to do the podcast like this. So
awesome.
I have my camera off just to the side of my screen, right? And I would position the window of my guest right on the edge of the screen, a little side. So it's like, this is how it would look if you were talking to me like 2 months ago. But now I can do this and I'm just seeing you. It's right through this little weird mirror thing that they have set up with this teleprompter. I really like it a lot. I think, I don't know if it's hard to say, but I do feel like maybe it just feels more natural.
No, it does. I didn't really notice it, man. Like, now that you say it, I notice that you're looking straight at me, which I'm not doing because I'm looking at you on the screen and my camera is up above. But I'm like, this kind of validates my purchase. So,
well, with the script too, I've done the same thing with the intros for the podcast.
of course.
So for people that are listening and want to know, I used to do the intros with the guests there. I'd be like, hey everybody, welcome to the Music Production Podcast. Today I got Boyan from LowHeatBeats, and you know, we see, I already messed up just like winging it off my head, right? So I found I could do a much better job afterwards by writing it out and saying what I really want to say, make sure I'm hitting on the things that are important to the conversation that we've already had now. So now I'm doing it in retrospect. And it also saves me that opening where right before we hit record, we're talking, we're laughing, we're comfortable, and then we hit record and it's like, hello everybody and welcome to the music. And now where it's all serious. And I could sometimes feel the guests tighten up a little bit. And me too, because that was always the part of the podcast I dreaded the most, because I'm trying to say nice things about the person and hype them up and make people want to hear about them in front of the person. So I'm nervous. We haven't spoken yet. I like it so much better afterwards. It's so much more comfortable.
Of course, man. Of course.
But now I can write that out, and just where it used to take me a lot of tries, because at that point I was always trying to look at the camera when I do those intros, but now I can just write it out and read it more or less.
No, true. And for videos, I feel like actually, because what I thought was that writing a script would take so long. I don't have the time and energy. I don't want to do it. When in fact it's the opposite. It actually takes you less time because you're editing less, because you are not messing up as much when you explain stuff. So and there's also the anxiety of like, oh, did I explain this correctly? Did I pronounce this right? Did I mess up the specs of this device, or did I mess up the name of this like Ableton device or whatever? So like writing stuff down actually saves time. The end result is much better. So for anyone listening who wants to get into that, I feel like this is a number one tip for me. Like, it took me a while to realize that, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. There are certain things I'll do bullet point lists on.
Sure,
but
sure.
I agree with you that especially in the beginning, to be a little more structured and to make sure you're saying the things you want to say to get the point across.
No, because you mentioned the intro. With the intro, you need to be very confident. You need to, people click on your video and they will be like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. And you have to look like you know you're talking about. But if you're constantly searching for your thoughts and saying, even if you edit it later, it just doesn't come across as confident enough. And you don't show the authority on the subject if you do it off the top of your head. Some people can do it. I mean, I'm not saying this is for everyone, but for me, and especially in a foreign language, it's much better to have a script.
And I think you're right about the time. It seems counterintuitive. I got to write this out, but I can read it much better than I can kind of wing it. I've tried it. I've done the experiment, and especially with the podcast intro, it's much nicer to write it out, make it clean, do the guest justice.
True. I remember that I remember when you back in the day you were doing it off the top of your head, and I've noticed that on more recent shows you are doing that, and it just comes out much cleaner and better.
I noticed it, and just like I said, that was always the part I was the most afraid about. Because if I got it wrong and I said something, and there have been a couple times where I said, hold on, let me just do that again. And my guests have been really courteous with me, but I fear that it might, chip away at their confidence in me and make them start saying, oh, what am I doing here? That's the last thing you want before you begin.
Nah, but now you're very experienced. Like, I feel like after what episode is this? Like, what's the number?
We're gonna be around 390.
Wow, I mean,
something like that.
Man, after so many episodes, I feel like you're quite experienced with how to handle this.
It takes a long time to get there, and I've had some help recently with editing. Animus Invidius, he does work. He's got a site, Perform Module, and he's been editing for me for a year and a half now anyway. So that's been really helpful because instead of spending all my time getting everything edited, I can think a little bit more about some of these things. Like maybe I should change how I'm doing the intro. I think if I'm spending all my time doing the editing and then it's time to do the next one, I don't get the chance to reflect as much on the process. And he often has thoughts about how things came out and gives me a little feedback too, which is nice. So there is like something to be said about doing it a long time, but if you're never getting a chance to reflect and pay attention to it, you can stagnate. And I think that happens to me with a lot of things because I'm trying to just keep going. And
no, like that's like having like someone else helping you. That's like having like a fresh set of ears listen to your music. Like some people do mastering just for that, they can do the mastering themselves, but just the fact that someone else with fresh ears will hear it from their perspective, that's quite valuable, even if you can do it yourself. So
even musically playing with a band over, it's been the last 4 years now, but when we first started playing, I hadn't really played with other people in a long time, 6-7 years probably. And it was really interesting to get that instant feedback from people just as you start playing the first chords or singing the first melody, to see what's happening and trying to produce stuff that was good on the fly, improvising even. All big helps. That's the beauty of what we do, I guess, is there's so many ways to approach it and so many turns you can take, so many different options, and they all help. But you have to also, it's not like you can just play with other people for 5 years and then go off on your own and do it. Because after a few years of not playing with other people, a little bit of time collaborating will do you a lot of good.
No,
You have to
no,
keep
true.
working out all the muscles in the body of your producer. You can't get stuck on like one group because you'll get like kind of lopsided and lose out on ways to improve.
No, of course, being influenced by other people is so valuable. I think I don't do it nearly enough, often enough as I should, but I can definitely feel like it's super important. I mean, like people say, it takes a village to raise a child, So like, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it's not always easy. It's hard to set that stuff up, but it is kind of strange how solitary music making has become.
Mm-hmm.
Because it used to be you
True, man.
had to play
Absolutely.
with other people
Yeah, yeah.
before, not that long ago.
Yeah, with some downsides that, as far as I know from people who do it, I haven't done it, but like you have people being late for rehearsals, people being like not on the same page as you, like
Yeah.
there are downsides to that as well. But there are downsides to just being in your room all by yourself too, even though you are in control. You are just there alone with your own ideas, no one else to contribute their experience, their vision. So it's both bad and good, I feel.
Yeah. Yep. It's true. There's always that. Um, you can find people that you work well with. You learn to make it work, I guess.
Yeah.
I think when I was younger, I was a little more concerned with the parts going the way I wanted them to go, and you have to play that part that way. Whereas now, I want you to play it the way you're going to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess I've had the time to play alone, to be the dictator with myself and say, it has to go this way. I get to have every part the way I want to have it.
No, but you always have to, like, working with other people in any capacity or in any field, you need to learn how to compromise. Like you need to find the middle ground that makes everyone happy. Like it's just a skill that you need to learn if you want to work with others. It can't always go exactly your way or the way you want it to. So yeah.
And that's nice that we can kind of do both. You can do it by yourself and have
Sure.
your way. Exactly. And that makes it easier to enjoy what other people bring to it when you work with other people.
Sure.
Get
Sure.
that
Sure.
different way of going.
Sure. I remember last time I collaborated, we were the label that I work with, Stereo Fox Records. They organized a beat making camp with a lot of people from Bulgaria, from my country. So that were like in a vaguely similar style, and like we just gathered in, like we did it I think 3 times, and it was a compilation that was released on vinyl 3 times, so that was kind of incredible. So this is where I learned that working with others, like not everything is going to be the way I want it to be, and that's fine. That's fine, Not everyone sees stuff the way I see it, so it's totally fine.
To go back to the whole not knowing what path you're on until you go on the path. I mean, so many times things happen with other people when you collaborate that I wouldn't do, and I might really feel like isn't the right idea. But then you go down that path and you're like, oh, actually, you see it differently. You get a new perspective and you start to realize, like, you know what? Now that we gave that idea a chance, it actually is better than what I thought we were going to do.
True.
I think so much of what we do with the creative process is kind of walking through a forest with a blindfold on and trusting and seeing where it goes and being playful with it and experimental, because you have to build on every single next step is built on the step before. And if you try to be too planned out, I think you miss a lot, or you're forcing the square into the circle hole. It's I do believe it's nice to have plans and to have targets to go for, but the flexibility is really important, and you can't wait until the plan is perfect. Like you said, you have to start making it and then you react to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. True. So I wanted to ask you actually, because you said, experimenting with stuff, because like you are more of a like you have more of a singer-songwriter background or approach, but yet you are so creative with all the electronic tools, like creating your own sounds, like doing some. Where does that come from for you? Like, because it's kind of like the way, like mixing both worlds. It's kind of cool. So like, I was just curious where that comes from, because yeah, a lot of people that are into guitars and drums, they're not really so experimental, like you, like creating, like the packs that you create are so like out there, like they're like really. So yeah, I was just curious.
Well, I think the Beatles.
Oh yeah, true.
I think the Beatles, where they would use things that weren't instruments to make sounds.
Yeah.
They would Octopus's Garden. They're blowing bubbles into cups to make it sound like it's underwater, or the anvil and Maxwell's Silver Hammer. I think that sparked my interest in recording techniques and being creative with how you come up with sounds. And I would do stuff like that on my 4-track, where I would try. I remember doing a song where we were using stuff in the kitchen, even like a dish soap container, the ones you squeeze. They go like when you squeeze on them. That was like percussion, and we thought that was hysterical, and because it worked too. It had a rhythm to it. So that was a lot of fun, and it gave the music life. And in the song, I just released a song the other day called Tell Me the Answer. And it's about if we will see the people we've lost along the way ever again. Is there an afterlife, a heaven, or, do you, right? And it was inspired by my dog. And we did it with like the community. I have the music production club, which was really fun to all be kind of in on this same theme. And one of the synth sounds is my dog's voice. I'd sampled a couple years ago, and I used that to create one of the melodies. And I could have used any synth preset to get that melody. It would have functioned in the song the same way, But I like, and it's like a rock song. It's like alternative rock music that doesn't really have that kind of stuff usually. But I like that. I like knowing that, like, my dog's in the song, playing a musical role, no less. And I don't know if anybody listening to it would be like, oh, that's a dog. That sounds like a dog, because I don't think it really does. It's got a vocal quality, but it's not like rough kind of thing. It's just like this sort of moan she made that I turned into like a melodic synth. But if nothing else, it increases my enthusiasm while making the song. And I'm sure that translates in different levels to the music. So if you're not aware that it's a dog sound, you are probably aware of the energy it gave me to put into the song. If that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. Like the listener won't know it's that, but when it's something special for you, and it inspired the way the whole song sounds. So I can totally.
Yeah, like your recordings like have your feelings and your passion, and you want to always have a good emotional impact, and having that in there made me bring something else to the track, I think. I can't really tell you exactly what. I can't exactly. It's not like track 4 has more this or that, but yeah, there's just something else there that I think gives it more life. So I like that kind of stuff in my music. I like bringing that in. To stick with like the pet thing, a long time ago, my cat was in the room playing around while I'm trying to record a classical guitar on a song, and he wandered between my feet,
Mm-hmm.
jiggling his collar, and it gets into the recording. It's a real quiet part, and it was like, I don't know, like it's if I was super technical recording man trying to get the perfect sound, we got to do it again. No good. Can't have that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I left it because that's my cat. Like he made that noise. He participated and we're capturing a moment. And to me, that makes that song more fun. And to this day, I still remember that particular take really well. Sitting there, I remember where I was in the room and everything. I would have totally forgotten that if I redid it and took it out.
No, that's a lot of. I think it adds a lot of character. I think they did it back in the days a lot, especially when maybe retaking stuff was not that easy, because maybe they were like especially with funk in the 70s, like they were all playing in the same room, so a lot of
Stuff
things.
happens.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff happens, and it gives it like a character. Like there is stuff that couldn't have happened any other time or with any other person. So I feel like this is yeah, capturing a moment. So and if you compress it, it brings it out even more, I guess. So
Yeah, you can accentuate it if you like. A good example of that in a song people would know is like Roxanne by the Police. In the very beginning, I think maybe it was Sting like sat on the piano and it made a chord and they kind of laugh. If you listen, it's distant. But right as that song starts, it's like a little laughter and a just kind of like piano plunking noise.
and so they left that. So they left it in such a high-profile song.
Yeah,
I haven't
in the very
noticed.
beginning. The very
Right
yeah.
now.
Yeah, it's like I guess that's the thing too is people just kind of accept it and or just don't even notice because it's just starting.
Hmm.
But it's they're there. You know,
Hmm.
those guys are there in the studio now. The police are there and they're having fun and they're doing this. It's not just this song that came out of nothing and exists. It's a couple people being creative and that's what happened. And I love that they left that in. They could have easily, even back then, it would have been easy to edit that out. Nowadays, it's so easy to edit everything out if you don't want things in there. But sometimes, yeah, it's nice to leave that stuff in.
Oh yeah,
So I think
especially with
that's the motivation for me, you know, with
true,
these
true,
weird
man.
sounds is I want to bring as much of life into this because to go back to like what I said about the 4-track where you bounce enough times and it sounds like there's these magical sounds that you didn't even play. In the DAW, there's none of that. Negative infinity decibels.
Yeah,
When nothing's
true,
playing, pure silence. That doesn't
true.
exist in the world anywhere else but inside your DAW.
No, exactly.
So
True.
allowing that stuff in, I think, is fun. So what if the birds are chirping in the background because you left the window open? Like, that's what was going on. That was the
True.
moment.
True. 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 I don't do nearly enough of that. I should definitely. Kind of inspiring to talk about this stuff for me. So
Well,
really cool.
some of the packs you have some of that stuff. Like I felt like the 404 effects, like you're injecting some of that life, some of the lo-fi synth stuff
Hmm.
that you have. There, it might not be recordings of things that are happening in the room,
Hmm.
but there's some sort of imperfection and character in those things.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've always been into hip hop music, obviously. So
Mhm.
this is not the type of music that shies away from imperfections or low quality sound or yeah, it shouldn't like it doesn't need to sound pristine. And I've always been into like I used to listen to a lot of hip hop when I was like a teenager or a kid, but then I got into electronic music, like into drum and bass, techno, IDM. Like I used to listen to a lot of the Warp Records stuff, which is kind of like wild. And so then I feel like it kind of all combined into the music that I do today, and it's reflected in the packs as well. So like I kind of like to mix more of a hip hop sound with a more experimental electronic approach. like maybe not necessarily these days with the music that I release. It's not that experimental, but I've always had that like fascination with. Like I remember in 2008 when I first heard Flying Lotus, who like he's a big artist now, but back then he wasn't really that famous. And I was like, oh, so you can make hip hop beats, but then use electronic sounds and synths. I was like, my mind was blown back then. Like I was like, I didn't know you could do that, which is kind of obvious nowadays for people, but back then there weren't very many people doing that. So it's always reflected in the stuff that I do.
Yeah, hip hop does, having those performances and those moments is a really big part of it. That even if you just think of like some of the ad lib stuff, that kind of just the warming up on the mic and like, yeah, okay, just it helps you picture the person like psyching themselves up, getting ready to come in with this, delivery. It's almost like an athlete like kind of digging their feet in the ground before they,
True.
before the whistle blows or whatever it is. So that, and again, it's not really part of the song. You could delete that out.
Nah,
get rid of that.
It wouldn't have the personality if you do
yeah, it creates a presence in that moment.
True.
So I have watched a lot of your Move videos. So I wanted to
Awesome,
talk to you a
man.
little bit
Thank
about
you.
that because
Amazing.
you seem excited about it. I'm excited about it too. And you're embracing it, especially you mentioned like in one of the videos you were talking a lot about like what the criticisms are, but really how you kind of like those features. Or lack of features, maybe.
I feel like with a device like this one, it's all about how you approach it with the mentality that you approach it. Because I wanted to, because there's been a lot of like, let me just, around the internet, there's been a lot of criticism about this. Like I would say it's a controversial device. Like controversial in a way that some people are loving it, but then a lot of people don't like it, especially people who haven't used it. But anyways, like I respect their opinion as well. But for me, the thing is like, okay, so Ableton, the company who make the DAW that I use the most, have released this portable device, like a small subset of the features of that device of Live, into this small portable box. So yeah, I would have liked to have 8 tracks, for example, like for sure. However, it is what it is. Do I choose to be negative about it and be like, I'm not going to use it, I'll pass on it, which is fair. Like people passing on it, it's absolutely fair. Or would I take the opportunity to have that device and make the most out of it? So that's where my positive approach comes in. I want to see where it will take me. I know it's not the most powerful thing in the world. It's not meant to be. And also, when companies create these products, what I've noticed, people don't really always forget, or maybe they don't realize it. There are a lot of considerations when making such a product, such as this product needs to appeal to the most amount of people, so they make the most amount of sales. But then it has to make sense for them to have it at a certain price, right? To like be in line with their vision for their whole product line or stuff like that. So they can't make it exactly the way you want it. It's just not possible. When you have stuff that's been made for hundreds of thousands and millions of people, it's always going to have compromises that you don't necessarily like. So you as a creative person, are you going to embrace them and try to make the most out of them, or not? It's your choice. That's how I feel about any product in our small niche of music production, but especially with this one, because I feel like it got a lot of some of the criticism is justified and some of it is a bit overblown, like too much, in my opinion. So it's always going to be subjective depending on the way you like to work. It doesn't do a lot of things I want to do, but then, okay, I'm going to do it another way and it may lead me to another result. That's fine. So that's how I look at it. But honestly, I'm not really super into these kinds of small groovebox devices and stuff like the Teenage. Did you have an OP1, by the way? Do I remember correctly?
Yeah. Yeah, the original OP1.
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily into these. I don't buy them. Like I have the SP404 Mark II, but I don't use that too much. But this one intrigued me because it's by Ableton, and this is what Ableton are giving us. They're not gonna make this ideal device that does exactly what I want it to do. So it is what it is. That's how I see it. It definitely has some drawbacks, but it's a cool little thing. That's how I see it. Definitely a luxury. I would say if you're like, do you need it? Of course you don't need it. Like I said, you need a MIDI keyboard, a computer, an audio interface, an instrument if you play that. You don't need this. It's a luxury. The way Push is a luxury, right? And there the price is also quite luxurious. So and a lot of people feel like Move is too limited, while Push is too like they want us to have something in between, right? Me too, but it doesn't exist, so we make do with what we have available. That's how I've always approached music, right? These people at these companies, they are creative people, smart people. They have their vision. They present us the opportunity to buy their products and use them, and we just need to make the most out of them. We can't really dictate how it's gonna turn out because it's not our company. It's out. We don't have the power to we can complain online, okay, sure, but at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah, and we don't. Most of us that aren't making these things don't really understand all the things you have to consider to bring something like that to life. And I'd have to imagine it's much more challenging when you already have an ecosystem like Ableton does. They got Live, they got Push, they got Note, and now they want to bring something else in, and they're seeming to connect it all, which is very interesting. And I'm very excited to see what happens. And I know it's in beta right now. I just haven't gotten around to try it, but like Push is going to have access to the cloud, and you'll be able to transfer things much nicer, because the transfer from Note to Live is really cool, and the way they have the web browser for samples and stuff is when I first saw that, I was like, okay, this is getting interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This is exciting, and I could see this going places. But yeah, to make it all fit in, that's tough. Some of the limitations, like the 4 tracks, I don't really have much of a problem with.
You're used to the 4-track tape, right? So you've used the 4-track tape. So
I hope you had 4 tracks also. Well, you can do a lot with 4 tracks. And now, Move is not meant to finish your song on, really. It's part of the process, right? And as you said, that does put it in this sort of luxury. You don't need it. In fact, you kind of need something else to go with it to really get the full use out of it. You kind of need Live to take your tracks to the end. Although there might be people that prove us wrong on that, finding workarounds and all that. But with that in mind, it is a lot of fun to see what I can come up with, sitting down on a couch or even outside if it's nice enough, where I don't even need headphones. The speaker is there, the microphone is there for sampling, and I love that it just randomly gives you 4 instruments to play with. They give you the drums, the bass, the keys, and the lead, and it's always random. You never know what you're going to get. That's a lot of fun, and it just throws you into creation real fast.
Yeah, because you switch it on and it's not empty. You need to search for sounds. It's like a guitar, basically. Like when you pick up an acoustic guitar, you just make sound out of the immediately. So it's kind of like that.
It has that. Sometimes my acoustic guitar blows my mind. There's no batteries. I don't have to charge it. I don't connect wires. Like it's doing everything like that the technology is trying to get back to, right?
Yeah,
Like we
yeah,
have
yeah.
these wireless things now. And Move is pretty cool like that. You can just open it up, you can play it. You can just play it like an instrument,
Mm-hmm.
just have
True.
fun. You don't have to be making a song necessarily. You can sample things really nicely. I think it functions pretty well as a controller also,
Mm-hmm.
for live. I've had a lot of fun. It's very portable, it's small.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Because I found with because I didn't get push 3 a day. I had it for a month. Ableton sent it to me just to try it out and like maybe make a couple of videos with it. And I was considering buying it, but at the end I realized that it's just too big, and for me it doesn't really offer that much of an advantage to push 2 that I already have. So, and also I've seen that you actually, like on your push, you actually play do you play the chromatic mode, or do you play the pads with or
Often chromatic because it looks like guitar. Because it's
exactly, which makes sense for people who are used to playing the guitar, but for me it's like nope. I prefer
mm,
the regular keyboard. So um push is like it just takes up so much space that I don't really
mhm.
utilize the whole 64 pad layout. But mainly I wouldn't really take it anywhere because it's so big and heavy. Like, do you have push 3 bar? Do you have do you
I
have the
do, yeah, the
standalone?
standalone. Yep.
Yeah, like for me, and again, that's basically a matter of how you prefer to organize your workspace. But for me, it's just so big and heavy, man. Like it's like push 1 was small. Every every push they make is bigger than the previous. Like I can't imagine push 4 how big it's gonna be. So yeah.
Yeah, it's great that you can just pick up your push and go someplace and play it. Um, it's not as portable as I guess I'd hoped it would have been.
Mm.
Like you said, it's a bit heavy and you need like a big enough bag to fit it
Mm.
in, and you'll need headphones. But once you sit down with it, yeah, it's great. It's so much fun. I love the pads. I think though, if I were to do it again, I'd probably get the non-standalone push and a move
Mm.
and save a little bit of money.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I don't bring the push around as much as I thought I would.
That's the thing. Like the whole thing about making music on the beach or in a car, like they have on the Move commercials. People like the idea of it. It's kind of like you imagine doing it,
Hmm.
but you actually probably not gonna do it. Like you're probably not gonna make beats in the subway while you're waiting for
Yeah.
the train, or at least that's what I've learned like from my experience. It's like you like the idea of it, but you end up not necessarily doing it. But for push, like obviously, but you get the real power of life. Like that's the
Hmm.
thing. Like you get like this is actual Ableton Live running on it. So that's kind of incredible. Like what other major DAW runs in a hardware box, right? That's kind of insane.
Yeah. It's almost too much,
Yeah.
because you can put everything in there. You can put all your, it's amazing. I'm, I'm walking around with like all my sounds in this thing, and
Hmm.
it's a lot of fun just as a synthesizer to just play.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I, I actually find that's how I wind up with it the most,
Hmm.
is just I'm sitting on the couch and I'm just playing music kind of without recording and just enjoying it as an instrument on its own. I remember when it came out, I think it was Rachel K. Collier was on a mountain
I
top,
remember that. Yeah. 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 That
drones. I bet she hasn't been back there with the push. I'm just gonna
exactly.
wager a guess.
Exactly.
That.
Maybe you will get her on the. Maybe you will get her on the podcast and you ask her.
Yeah. Have you
But
been back to that mountaintop with the push? Um, but yeah, if you want to like make a day out of it, you can do things like that, and it is fun. I've certainly done that. I've taken it out in the backyard and had a microphone, and but it's a little bit of a setup.
Hmm. True,
It's a little
true,
bit of a setup, you know,
true.
where Move is just you don't need anything, just grab it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it is very nice like that, and it's fun that we have all these tools. And yeah, like I'm like you. The computer is a huge instrument, and
Hmm.
for me, and I do love it that I have it. It's if you took it away, I'd be like I need it.
Hmm.
But it is nice to get away from it too.
True,
And
true,
those two
true.
devices do allow you to do that a bit. Sometimes I just want to make music and not have to record it. I kind of envy people sometimes that just take an acoustic guitar into the backyard and just play, and they don't ever even think about recording it. They just
Yeah,
want to strum
yeah,
it after work and relax.
yeah. Like music used
Eh,
to be way back in the day before recording was invented, right? You played it and it
mm.
was up in the air, and it was never like gonna be repeated again. So yeah,
Now there's always a red light recording
yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
always.
No,
And
but actually, like but seriously, like capture is
mhm,
a game changer for me.
sure,
Maybe for you, like you probably wish you did it for audio as well because you play like
that'd be
guitar and
pretty
stuff.
cool. Yeah.
But for me, when I mostly record MIDI, so for me it's like, oh, I didn't record this, but I can just hit a button and I have it. That's kind of amazing.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, the capture feature is that's how I do it now. I don't worry about I don't
yeah,
set the tempo, I don't set the BPM anymore. I just play something and it figures it out for me.
yeah, and it's actually the tempo that's in you at that particular
Yeah.
moment. It's not a number. You're like, oh, I'm gonna set this number, and but that may not be the your inner rhythm at that given moment, if that
It
makes
used to
sense.
be I'd come up with an idea, then I have to figure out the tempo.
Mm.
And you'd always be a little too fast or too slow, or
Yeah.
maybe you weren't even sticking to one tempo in the course
Yeah.
of that
True. True.
performance. So
True.
with capture, it just takes that out. Someone else figures it out for you.
True. And it works. And it works really well. It's kind of like magic, actually. Like
Mm.
how well it maps the tempo that I've like.
Yeah.
Just I don't know how they do it, but it works perfectly. I don't
It's
know
to the
how.
point where I don't even worry. I just, when I'm first making a track, I'll just play, whether it's drums or keys,
Hmm.
I'll play. And worst case scenario, it doesn't understand where I think one should be,
It does that
the first beat.
sometimes. Yeah.
So,
True.
but
True.
it has the information. I can just drag the start
Yep.
points and do a little correction quick. And then
Hmm.
I'm usually pretty good.
True.
But, but that's, uh, such a great feature because again, it takes the stuff I don't like about the computer out of it. The like, okay, let's set the tempo, and now I got to listen to a click, which is the least musical thing to try to play along with ever.
No, no, true, true. Also, when you say the computer not being musical, one thing that controllers help me because I also use Native Instruments machine a lot. Like not really that much so much these days, but I used to use it a lot before I got push. I still use it sometimes because it's like a different like
Mm.
it's more physical, right? Because it's like the moment when you touch the mouse, like you kind of get out of this rhythm, this physical way to express yourself. You're kind of pointing at a very precise place in the screen, and it kind of gets you. So having these controllers like push or move or anything else, it just makes it more physical, and the end result is more
Mm.
musical. I find for me.
Yeah, in those early stages it's kind of critical you stay in that creative phase where you're just playing, moving, the physical aspect of
True.
it. Because as soon as you start getting technical and questioning things or clicking around and dragging,
Mm-hmm.
that's it's a different character in your brain that comes out.
Oh yeah, it's a
And
it's a total buzzkill. It's a total buzzkill,
yeah.
or getting into like I don't know, engineering stuff like EQing
Hmm.
stuff before you even have an idea. Like, what are you doing? Like, just try to get the idea as fast as possible, and then fix stuff that needs fixing, or set up a template that allows you to work faster. But I find that getting into the technical stuff, as you say, early in the process, you just waste time and energy on stuff that prevents you from expressing your idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that working as fast as possible approach, especially in the beginning, just plowing through things, even if it means I'm ruining things in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe I'm committing MIDI to audio or recording directly the effects directly in. It just, again, like I keep coming back to this idea of like you don't know the path you're on and you got to start walking it. And those types of things help me make those steps. And
True.
sometimes you make a mistake, but I think the net gain, if you weigh it out from when you actually make progress and get things done and finish, is so much higher compared to the amount of times you ruin stuff.
Yeah,
Because even
because
if I've ruined things, my next decision will be to compensate for that in some way.
not true. Because also you get tired. Like I get tired. Honestly, I get tired. Like I need to have as much of to get as much of the idea out as possible before I get tired, before my enthusiasm diminishes. Like when I'm feeling that creative rush, I need to take advantage of it. And so I don't want to be like, oh man, I'm tired. I need to go to the bathroom. I'm hungry. I'm like, I need to go to bed because I have a thing tomorrow or whatever. So you need to get down the idea as good as possible before this moment. That's how it works for me, at least. Like I just you don't have unlimited energy to work on stuff all the time. So you need to take advantage of the moment. That's how I see it.
Yeah, because you might not really get back to that. You can't necessarily find that same space you were in. Maybe it was 11 o'clock at night and you were that day created some mood in you, some attitude that was making this music. And then the next day, it might not be there anymore. So, yeah,
True.
just for me, I think the first hour or two of any song, that's when most of it happens.
Yep.
80 to 90%. And then the rest is detail work.
No, true. Most of my best tracks that I've released, that I've made, with some exceptions, but very few, most of them were done, the bulk of the production was done in a very intense, like 3-hour session or something like that. Because of exactly what you said, you're capturing the moment and the mood, and the next day it may feel different. But if it's like 90% done, you're good.
Then you can get in that more technical, engineering kind of space.
Sure. But also you shouldn't overdo it because you may end up ruining it. Like I can't, like, most of the time when I'm like because I master my own stuff, like I don't have, like, even though I release through a label, I don't have a mastering engineer to like, the budget doesn't allow it. So, and I can do it, like there's no problem, especially with tools like Ozone that have like master assistant or whatever. Man, my test export that I export from the session just to have it on my phone, like 90% of times it sounds better than when I focus on mastering it and trying to fit all the tracks to sound coherent with each other. Like most of the time, the stuff that I've bounced to just have on my phone, it just captures the vibe the best for some reason. So I try not to overdo that.
Yeah, you wind up cleaning it too much or
Exactly.
something goes, overproducing. I've done that so many times where and there's a couple times in particular that really stick out where I decide I'm really going to work on this mix and get it right. And then take all the plugins off or listen to the old version and you're just like, oh, it sounds worse.
No, because it happens gradually and you don't realize it.
Yeah.
Because you work on it like for a certain time and you get further away from your initial, like the vibe that sparked the whole thing, that you don't realize. And at some point you're like, oh, something is missing. Like it's not the thing that inspired me. So that's why I think it happens. You're gradually ruining it, thinking you're improving it.
Right. Good reason to work fast so that you don't give yourself the time to do that.
True.
I think a lot of our learning, we learn a lot in these processes, but every time you do a new song and go through the process again, that's the real learning. That's like doing your reps at the gym or something. Yeah.
100%. Learning by doing, exactly. Like you need to know the basics, okay, sure. Like if you don't know how to use Live or your DAW or the basics of production, how to record stuff like audio interfaces, mics, blah, blah. Okay, sure, you need to learn this. But after a certain base level of knowledge that you need to get under your belt, I think you just need to do it as often as possible for many years, and that's how you get half decent at it. Like there's no way to, because I feel like people have the tendency to procrastinate on it just by watching tutorials, trying to learn stuff. It's useful to learn, but also you're not gonna improve nearly as fast as someone who is just doing it every day, all day, if they have the time. So
yeah, we do that. We want new stuff. You kind of mentioned something earlier before we started talking about like the consumerism and the artist, and it's sometimes I think we can become almost like collectors rather than like somebody that has the full collection of like, I don't know, the entire Spider-Man series but hasn't read them yet. You know, or I guess it's a lot easier to buy something than it is to finish a song, to go through the process, the creative, because you know if you lay down that money on Amazon or Sweetwater or whatever it is, the product will arrive. You will complete that goal. But when you open up your DAW or whatever you want to work on, you pick up your instrument, you don't know if you're going to get anything good that you like, if you're going to succeed in that.
I found out that people that are really, really, really artistic, that are real artists, like I don't mean to sound pretentious or anything like that, but there is that thing. They probably not as obsessed about gear, about having the latest thing, buying the latest thing. Sure, we all like new gear, but that just gives us a small dopamine rush for a certain period of time, and then it's old. Then it's no longer new. It's like with every product that you buy. So that's like a problem of consumerism in general, not just in music production, but since we are artists, we are supposed to express our artistic side. We should be careful with that, trying to rationalize everything. Like it doesn't have this feature or that feature, or this machine is better than this one, or that. Man, that's consumerism talk. That's not how artists
right.
How artists think about stuff like this. So
how could it only have 256 megabytes of memory? Yeah, that's not artist talk. You're right. We're talking specs here, and
exactly. And the talk about like, because that's very relevant about Push. Because when they released it, people were like, "Man, how come it only has an i3 processor? Man, it's a drum machine. Like, what do you mean?" And these people know what they're doing. Just if you want it, buy it, get it, make some music. Like, who cares what processor it has. Like we're not like computer geeks, or maybe we are, but like if you want to make music, you just need to focus on how it makes you feel, how it helps you express yourself, and not specs. Although, to be fair, I feel like Teenage Engineering are taking it a bit too far, because their latest, like not the latest, but the one they released last year, the KO2, the sampler, it had 64 megabytes, and they are trying to like market it as, you know, these limitations will make you better, which kind of may be true sometimes, but also it gives people false hopes because they are uninspired with the tools they have. And they're like, oh, so I'm going to buy this limited box, and it's going to inspire me to do this and that. That's rarely the case, especially in the long term. In the long term, you need to find it inside yourself, like not relying on products to make your music better. So that was not supposed to be like a dig at Teenage Engineering, but I do remember that specific spec, which kind of stuck in my mind. So that's why I'm...
As a company, they are probably getting more controversy in everything they do, you know? And part of the reason is because they're doing weird stuff. So that's, you know, if they were doing everything everyone else is doing, you know, whatever, no one would bat an eye. I mean, I remember when the OP1 came out, and no one could believe it. It's a toy, and I think it was like $700 back then, and which was a lot, but now it's like almost 3 times that.
Exactly.
I got it when it was relatively new. It was like 2011.
Oh man,
and
I think that was basically the year it came out.
it was very new, yeah. As soon as I picked it up, I was like, oh, like, okay, this thing's got some weight. It doesn't feel like a toy. And I mean, compared to a DAW, it was limited, but there's so much you can do with that thing. And I really loved it. I loved the compact form. I felt like every time I played it, it was a little bit surprising. I liked that the controls, the 4 knobs weren't telling me that I was using a filter cutoff at 2K, you know? Instead, it was like, you know,
what you're hearing.
Yeah, it was like a boxer and he's changing his pose, or it was a monkey playing the drums, and you just thought about it differently. It was some weird abstract image that you're moving around and it's changing the tone about. And yeah, it got you thinking with your imagination more than your brain. And it was, I still love it. It's an amazing piece of gear. I don't have anything like it still. Yeah, there's a couple of little weird things about it, maybe even some hardware. It's a little noisy, especially if you plug it into the USB. There's some kind of weird interference that goes on.
Yeah, but that happens with a lot of devices due to the bus power can create that for some devices. So not a surprise.
Yeah, but you know, they continue to just do interesting stuff. When they came out with the pocket operators, those were very interesting. I really am happy we have a Teenage Engineering out there. I'm not going to get everything they've got. Some things I would love to try. Some of the new OPXY and the OP1 Field looks amazing. It's just a little bit out of reach at this point, you know. And I guess I'm kind of really in that phase where I'm very well aware that it's not going to be another thing, another toy. Most of the things I wind up getting get way underused.
Oh, exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. I used to think that buying new things will improve things. And now, like for a while now, I've realized that is absolutely not the case. So I'm not like, you know, trying to, but Teenage Engineering I think it's been established by now that they are mostly a design company. So that's why their things are so different and weird. And they do collaborations with IKEA. So like they have products in IKEA that are designed by them. They also designed this AI assistant, the Rabbit R1. I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but it was this little orange thing that was super controversial, again, because it didn't deliver what it was promised it would. So it was supposed to be like an AI assistant that you carry with yourself, and you ask it to do stuff, and it does stuff like order food, ask questions. But obviously, it's stuff that you can also do with your phone. So that's why it kind of didn't take off, I feel. But they designed that, so it had a kind of like a very striking design. And they've been involved with some other companies as well, like Nothing, which is a phone company. They have like a phone that's designed by one of the people from Teenage Engineering. So they're like a design company that's involved in a lot of mainstream projects that are that have far bigger reach than our small niche. Because music production, like for us, it's like this, like this thing that's so vast, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a drop in the ocean compared to the tech industry as a whole. So I think they're doing a lot of that as well.
That's our modern day, right? Where if I go on social media, everybody in the world has synthesizers and is DAW, exactly. Right? And
exactly.
And there's other people, everyone in the world is obsessed with like car engines or whatever you're into, like you get that. That's all you get. So it really does feel like, you could go up to anybody and be like, what compressor do you use? Like they go, well, I'll tell you.
No, exactly. I get that feel too. It's like sometimes it's hard to realize that random people on the street like have no idea what I'm doing. Like they have absolutely no clue that this stuff exists at all. So
right. Well, anyone I know pretty much that sees anything I do online are like, well, what are you doing? You keep coming up talking about all this weird stuff. I'm like, it's talking about making music.
Exactly.
I don't know what else to say.
Exactly.
But it's cool to have forward-thinking companies like that. And I guess once in a while, there's going to be a miss. And people learn from that. People get inspired from that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, true. I think it's hard, like we already established, it's hard to create a product, put it out there. So I'm not like, no disrespect to them for anything they do. Although I did get the KO2 back when it was released, and it came with a broken fader, which was like a very, everybody knows about that at this point, but it was basically packaged like if you get a box of chocolates, it's better protected than this thing. It was just in plain thin cardboard. So, which I realized it was supposed to be like a 7-inch record, like it was supposed to be like this designer type of box with Muhammad Ali or maybe, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Muhammad Ali, yeah.
But I think it was a bit too much to ship an expensive piece of electronics without any protection. So honestly, I just returned it and I lost interest because, But I'm sure they learned their lesson from that. So,
There's an interesting time in the creation of these tools. And I just talked to, and he'll be on the podcast, but he works for Serato, Nick McLaren. And he was talking about, now we have software where you just press a button and it makes a song for you, right? Like
the AI,
yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay. So like you can go on the internet and be like, I want a country song about a guy that likes to ride motorcycles in the Grand Canyon or something, and they'll make it for you. And then you've got like the music creation software, like Take Live, with all these generative tools that are starting to come in now, the MIDI transformers and all of that. And where's the line? How easy do you want to make it for people? Where it's still fun? It's still rewarding? Or do we want where, I never thought of it that way, that a company like that would have to say, look, we want to have these features that make music making interesting, fun, and fast. But how fast is too fast?
I mean, if you remove the human entirely, that's like, I'm not sure if that was a rhetorical question, but I'll answer it anyway. Because the way I see it is like the
Well,
moment you,
it's kind of rhetorical, but it is a real question that they really have to face now.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like if you remove the human entirely, just writing a prompt, for me, it's not enough human input. Maybe other people will feel different. I respect that. But for me, when you remove the human entirely, that's when I might as well just do something else, you know.
Yeah.
I might as well just not do that. And like, because I'm not going to get the satisfaction of creating something, the feel of accomplishment that I've created something that's unique, that's expressing me. So yeah, that's where I would draw the line.
I think people will lose interest in that stuff too. Some of the AI stuff that came out, like, oh, it's Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys singing "Smells Like Teen Spirit." Okay,
Oh
cool. Let me
man.
hear it. Like, you listen to it, but like, I'm not downloading it. I don't even listen through the whole thing even. And at this point, like, I don't even care. I don't even need to hear it. But in the beginning, it was kind of like, oh, that's funny. It really does sound like him.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's going to get so good that people don't care, like people that just want some music in the background don't care, or if maybe we'll start to want something that is clearly human, which might mean more imperfections. I don't know.
No, but this stuff is improving at a very fast rate, so it will probably get a lot better. And it's good even now.
Yeah.
But yeah, at this point, I feel like background music and people who don't really care about music would be the prime users of these tools. Although obviously with music production we have AI tools that help us with, like, it. Why are they taking away the creative tasks, right? Because when you help
Yeah.
us with the boring tasks, like RX isotope RX 11 or RX whatever, removing like some breaths or noise, or again, I'm just mentioning isotope because I have their tools, but other companies are doing it as well, like AI master assistant and stuff. That's cool because that for me is the stuff that's tedious. That's fine, but why are you taking away the stuff that's actually fulfilling and enjoyable? Like, no.
Yeah, I saw a meme somewhere. I forget it exactly, but the point was basically like, why are we getting AI to do like the art and stuff? I want AI to do the chores so I can make the art. I don't want to
Exactly.
have it do the art so now I only do my chores, kind of
Exactly.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly. True. True.
Yeah, it's interesting times, I suppose. We'll figure it out, I guess. But, just like, I guess, even if you think of something like auto-tune or drum machines, people still like to sing. People still like to sing well. People still like to play the drums.
Mm-hmm.
People still like to work on that skill. So,
True.
yeah, I don't think that, at least the creation of it, as long as we still can have fun doing it.
True. 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 Absolutely.
So do you have anything new you're excited about? Anything you want to share with the people that you're working
Hmm.
on, or
So I wouldn't necessarily share stuff that I'm working on because you know how you get the satisfaction of saying it and then you get demotivated to actually do
you don't
it.
need to do it anymore?
So
Yeah.
I would skip that. Like when I have something, I will just release to people will know. But a month ago, I released my latest EP, Don't Look Back, on all streaming platforms. So that was my latest project, with my. I do instrumental music, so no vocals and stuff. But that was my recent project. Still quite new, doing pretty well on the streaming platforms. So I'm happy with that. Definitely want to get more into doing Bandcamp releases, like maybe on my own, because I release these through the label on the streaming platforms. But I want to get my Bandcamp going, but I haven't really done so much with it. But yeah, that's my latest project. Don't look back, on all streaming platforms. Maybe people will check it out. Maybe they will like it.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes so they can check
man,
it out
thank you.
from here.
Sure,
Yeah.
man, thanks.
I think they should check out some of your packs too. You've got a knack for cool sounds and stuff with feeling.
Man, coming from you, that's quite the compliment. So appreciate that.
Oh, well, I feel that way. Yeah, I like what you do a lot, and it's nice that the music is so good.
Man, thank you.
It's great to like learn this stuff and hear your thoughts, but it makes the whole experience enjoyable just to get to hear some of that going on too, and to hear like not just what things can do, but in words, right, technical stuff, but to see it in action is great. To see how you're putting the stuff you're sharing, the stuff you're teaching into actual practice is awesome, and it's great that it sounds so good.
Man, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, it was great having you. I guess probably the main headquarters for you is lowheatbeats.com, right? And then
Sure,
the
yeah, I
YouTube
need
channel.
to overhaul it a bit, but that links to all the packs. It has links to Spotify, to YouTube, so that's one that you can put in the description. But I will be overhauling it, and maybe I'll see where my packs will reside in the future. Because for now, it's linked to Gumroad. Like when you open a pack, it opens the Gumroad pop-up. But yeah, that's the place where you find all the other links to all my YouTube streaming platforms and stuff. But I'm on all platforms except for TikTok. So
Okay. Very good. I'll put the links in there. And thanks for coming on.
man, pleasure was all mine. I'm not just saying it out of courtesy. It really was. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Music Production Podcast. If you want to help support the show, the best thing you can do is tell a friend, someone you think that would enjoy the show. I'd also love it if you could leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to support my work, you can go to brianfunk.com. I've got tons of Ableton Live packs, tutorials, samples. You can check out my book, The 5-Minute Music Producer, which gives you 365 short music-making activities to help you get started, stay inspired, and finish more music. And there's also the Music Production Club, where you get my latest releases as soon as they're finished. It gives you access to a community of like-minded people who are making music and sharing ideas. You can share your music, find new collaborators, and participate in our live meetings where we set up some kind of musical challenge and then make music together and share our results at the end. That's the Music Production Club. It's a lot of fun, and you can find that and everything that I do at brianfunk.com. Thanks again for listening to the show, and have a great day.